You won't believe what Barron Trump heard from a stranger today. The emotional moment he never expected will leave you speechless. Watch till the end to see how this surprising encounter changes everything. The world watched as Barron Trump, the youngest son of former President Donald Trump, quietly lived in the shadows of fame, his every move analyzed by the media, and yet his true nature, his heart, was something few ever truly saw. But today, that's about to change. What would happen when this shy teenager finds himself face to face with a stranger? How would Barron respond when the unexpected message that changed his life forever comes from someone who wasn't a celebrity or a politician, but just an everyday person? The moment you'll witness is bound to shatter all preconceived notions. What's about to unfold in front of your eyes is a rare, moving moment that'll make you rethink everything you thought you knew about Barron Trump. Stay tuned, because this is not just another story. This is a rare, emotional encounter that'll leave you stunned. Are you ready for this? It was an ordinary afternoon, but little did anyone know, something extraordinary was about to unfold. Barron Trump, with his familiar, calm demeanor, walked through a local park in New York. He wasn't the typical person you'd expect to see on the streets. His height, his family name, all eyes would be on him. But today, something felt different. It wasn't the usual paparazzi or fans whispering his name. No, today, it was the presence of a stranger who seemed to sense something unspoken within him. A middle-aged man, dressed in simple jeans and a faded hoodie, caught Barron's attention. There was nothing exceptional about him, except for the way he carried himself. Calm, steady, yet somehow more confident than anyone else in the crowd. The man didn't ask for an autograph or shout Barron's name. He simply made eye contact and smiled. It was as if the world had paused for just a second. And that smile, there was something genuine about it. Barron, despite his typically reserved nature, felt an unexpected pull towards him. It was one of those rare moments when life feels surreal, like fate was pulling him into something bigger than himself. The stranger, who appeared to be in his late 40s, approached Barron slowly, without any rush, his expression soft yet intense. "You don't know me, but I've always admired you from a distance," he said. His voice was calm, warm, and filled with an emotion Barron hadn't expected to hear from someone so unfamiliar. "I've been following your story for years, and I just want to say, you're not just a name. You're someone who matters." For a moment, Barron stood frozen. The weight of those words didn't hit him immediately, but as the stranger continued to speak, something inside Barron began to shift. For the first time in his life, he wasn't being looked at as the son of a former president. He wasn't being defined by his last name. No. In that moment, he was just Barron, a young man caught in the whirlwind of life's unspoken truths. The stranger's words struck a chord deep within Barron. "I've seen what you're going through, all the things the world doesn't see. You're human, and I just wanted you to know that you matter more than you know." The sincerity in his voice was undeniable, each word carrying a weight Barron hadn't felt before. Barron stood still, almost as if time had frozen around them. His eyes glistened for just a moment before he blinked, as though he had to clear the unexpected surge of emotion within him. It was as if a part of him had been waiting for someone to acknowledge him for who he truly was, not just the son of a public figure. And then it happened. The stranger took a step back, still looking Barron in the eyes, as if allowing him the space to process. Barron's lips parted, and in a voice that was uncharacteristically soft, he replied, "Thank you." As Barron Trump steps further into the park, the vibrant sounds of the city hum around him. The cool breeze rustles through the trees, and the sun casts a soft golden light across the scene, making everything seem calm, yet filled with an air of anticipation. Barron's face is serious yet approachable, his gaze scanning the park as he walks, clearly focused on something ahead. Just then, a figure emerges from the crowd, an elderly man sitting on a park bench with a weathered hat, his hands resting on a cane. He watches Barron from afar, eyes reflecting a deep, silent curiosity. As Barron gets closer, the man shifts, straightening up, as if preparing to say something. There's something unmistakably powerful in his demeanor, his calm but unyielding presence. "Excuse me, young man," the elderly man calls out softly, his voice gentle but tinged with a sense of wisdom. Barron stops in his tracks, instinctively turning toward the voice. The elderly man's wrinkled face breaks into a small, knowing smile, his eyes twinkling as he watches Barron approach. "You're Barron Trump, aren't you?" the man asks, his voice calm but steady. Barron, slightly taken aback by the recognition, nods respectfully, though there's a subtle unease in his posture. "Yes, that's me." The man chuckles lightly, shaking his head as if to himself, before looking Barron directly in the eyes. There's a moment of silence between them, one that feels filled with unspoken words and histories not yet shared. "You know," the man continues, his gaze unwavering, "I've lived through a lot in my time, and I've seen plenty of things in this world, but I've never seen someone like you." Barron's brow furrows slightly, unsure of how to respond, yet he stands there, waiting for the man to continue. The old man leans forward, eyes intense with sincerity. "I'm not talking about your name or who your father is. What I'm talking about is your strength. It's something you have, something you've had to learn, and something you've carried for far too long." Barron looks taken aback by the sudden depth in the man's words, but there's something in his voice that draws Barron in, urging him to listen closer. The weight of the man's statement hangs in the air between them. You're the son of a powerful man, but more than that, you're your own person, and that's something you need to hold on to. No matter where you go, who you meet, or what others think of you, you've got your own path to walk. Barron's eyes soften, a quiet realization dawning in him. The man's words resonate deeply within him, as if someone had finally acknowledged the pressures and burdens Barron had quietly carried for so long. "You're not just a name or a title," the man continues. "You're more than that, and I believe you'll find your way." There's a deep sincerity in the elderly man's eyes, and Barron's lips part as if trying to find the words, but none seem right. He nods, looking the man in the eye as the weight of his words sinks in. A quiet understanding passes between them, a moment that words can scarcely capture. As Barron takes a deep breath, he feels a subtle shift, an overwhelming sense of validation he hadn't realized he needed. The world feels a little bit lighter, a little bit less daunting. In the silence that follows, the elderly man's gaze remains gentle, knowing that the young man in front of him has received the message. Barron stands still for a moment, almost lost in the powerful simplicity of the encounter. With a small smile, Barron nods at the man, offering a brief thank you before turning to leave. But before he walks away, he pauses, glancing back at the old man one last time. The elderly man's face breaks into a soft, content smile, the kind that says, "I'm proud of you." And just like that, Barron continues on his way. But something within him has shifted. He walks a little taller, his heart a little lighter, as if the weight of the world has been shared, even if just for a moment. After the heartfelt exchange, Barron continues walking through the park, his steps now more purposeful, each one carrying the weight of the moment he just experienced. The golden light of the late afternoon casts long shadows across the path, and the sound of footsteps on the pavement echoes softly in the quiet of the park. As Barron walks, his face appears more contemplative than before, the wheels of his mind clearly turning, processing the words that the elderly man had shared with him. Suddenly, Barron stops. A group of people has gathered nearby, a crowd that seems to have appeared almost out of nowhere. They're standing around a small makeshift stage, a few of them whispering amongst themselves, while others stare at the center of attention. A woman with a microphone. She's in the middle of speaking, but her words aren't clear from where Barron stands. The crowd looks expectantly at her, as if they're waiting for something important to be said. Barron approaches cautiously, curiosity getting the better of him. As he draws closer, the woman's words begin to take shape. And we can all help make a difference if we just take a moment to listen, to understand, and to help each other, she says, her voice passionate but with a quiet strength. She's speaking to the crowd about community support and the importance of kindness, but it's clear that her message is resonating with Barron. He stands in the background, quietly observing, unsure whether he's ready to speak up yet. His gaze is focused, as if the woman's words are slowly connecting with something deeper inside of him. The woman pauses, and for a brief moment, her eyes meet Barron's. There's a flicker of recognition in her expression. Without missing a beat, she steps forward toward him, gently moving through the crowd. "Excuse me, young man," she says, her tone warm and inviting. "I don't mean to interrupt, but I think you might have something valuable to say about this." Barron, caught off guard but intrigued, looks around. The crowd has fallen silent, and everyone seems to be waiting for him to respond. He wasn't expecting to be the center of attention, and yet here he is, standing at the heart of this impromptu moment. For a long beat, Barron stands still, unsure of what to say. His mind drifts back to the conversation with the elderly man, those words still echoing in his ears. The impact of that encounter lingers, and for the first time, Barron feels the desire to speak up, to share something he hasn't fully expressed before. Taking a deep breath, Barron steps forward, his voice calm but steady. "I think," he begins, "that listening is the key. Sometimes we all need someone to listen to us, someone who understands, someone who isn't quick to judge. The world can be tough, but if we take the time to listen to one another, we can make it a better place." There's a noticeable shift in the crowd. The woman, who had originally prompted Barron to speak, smiles warmly at him, nodding in agreement. The other people in the crowd, many of whom have been silently watching, now exchange knowing glances, as if Barron's words have sparked something within them. A few of them even step forward, offering small words of encouragement, some smiling, others nodding in approval. Barron stands there, quietly taking in the responses, a sense of validation growing inside him. This moment isn't just about him anymore. It's about something bigger, a shared understanding, a connection that transcends the surface-level interactions people often have with each other. For a moment, Barron feels the weight of his words. He realizes that by speaking from the heart, he has the power to make others feel heard, to give them a voice when they might feel overlooked. It's a simple act, but it carries incredible weight. As the woman thanks him, the crowd slowly begins to disperse, but Barron remains in place for a while, letting the moment settle. He looks around, seeing the smiles on the faces of those who had listened, and for the first time in a long while, he feels a sense of peace. A quiet confidence. He didn't need to have all the answers, but he had shared something real, something that mattered. And in that moment, Barron knows that this interaction, this exchange, has impacted more than just him. It has touched the people around him as well. He walks away from the scene, not with answers to life's bigger questions, but with the realization that sometimes a simple, heartfelt response is all it takes to begin making a difference in the world. The echoes of Barron's words still linger in the park, the moment having left an indelible mark on everyone present. As the crowd disperses, there's a palpable shift in the air, a collective sense of something deeper, something meaningful that was shared in those few moments. People walk away with more than just the memory of a conversation. They carry with them a feeling of connection, of understanding, that they might not have had before. Barron stands for a moment, watching the people as they slowly fade into the distance. He can feel their gazes, a mix of admiration and gratitude, but he doesn't let it distract him. He's still processing everything that's just happened, letting the realization settle in. A few passers-by, who had been standing near the edge of the crowd, approach him hesitantly. One of them, a middle-aged man with a warm smile, stops in front of Barron. "That was a beautiful thing you said, son," he says, his voice full of sincerity. "You don't hear enough of that kind of honesty and kindness these days." Barron nods, unsure how to respond. He's not used to this kind of attention, but there's something comforting in the man's words. It's clear that what he said had an impact, not just on the crowd, but on this individual too. Another person, a woman holding her child by the hand, adds, "You reminded me of something I forgot. We all need to take the time to listen more. Thank you for that." Barron smiles, a soft, almost shy expression crossing his face. These small interactions, simple words of encouragement, fill him with a quiet sense of pride. He's never felt like he had the power to move people in this way before. He watches as the crowd dissipates entirely, their conversations about kindness, listening, and compassion continuing as they walk away. The park, once buzzing with the energy of a spontaneous gathering, is now quiet again, save for the distant chirping of birds and the soft rustle of leaves in the wind. Barron turns, making his way back toward the park's exit. As he walks, his mind begins to clear, and a new sense of purpose starts to take root. It's not about the applause or the recognition, though he doesn't mind it. It's about the moment itself. The power of a simple exchange, a few words that spoke directly to the heart, making a real difference. The world might be full of noise, but in that fleeting moment, Barron Trump realized that listening, understanding, and speaking from the heart could be the key to making the world feel just a little more connected, just a little more human. With that realization, Barron steps into the quiet of the outside world, knowing that no matter how small or fleeting, his words had touched something within others, and perhaps they had planted the seeds for change.